Welcome to the very first exclusive with Larry Ballard. This might be called the Faith and Liberty or Faith Crusade, the Liberty Crusade with Blessed to Teach, combining to have an awesome time with Larry to learn more things. This is going to be exclusive. You only find it on Faith and Freedom TV. Again, that you can find that, but the good news is that's everywhere, right? The main places you're going to find Faith and Freedom TV, though, is going to be on faithandfreedom.tv, which is the actual web app. But you can also have it on Roku and Fire TV. Look at this. I'm going to go over here to these apps. You'll see, look at Roku, Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, Android, iOS. So on your phone, on your tablet, but on the tablet, you would just use the web app, which is faithandfreedom.tv, or download one of these 6 apps right here, okay? So get it on your TV, get it on your mobile device, and have exclusive content coming from multiple people, and one of them every single week is a huge privilege to have Larry Ballard on. So let's move right in. He's going to talk about the coming financial collapse. Larry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Rick.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking the time
to do the show with you.
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's so exciting to have the Liberty Blessing or the the Blessing Crusade. You know, we'll have to figure out a way to officially give it a name, but we're going to have this each week where you will get.
Just call it Faith and Freedom. I don't need the accolades. It's your show.
It's Faith and Freedom exclusive content is what the channel will be, and one of the shows is going to be the Rick and Larry, right? So the Rick and Larry show, but the Larry and Rick show. But Larry Ballard has got such a great amount of knowledge and just everything I've been studying the last 8 years through the Q drops and doing all the analysis and reporting on all the researchers. It's awesome to see these two worlds come together to give us more insight. And one thing we've always been talking about is they're trying to get to a great reset, but the white hats are going to get to a reset they're not expecting, right? It's going to be a best is yet to come reset. So Larry, talk to us a little bit about what you see with this great financial reset.
Well, I think bottom line, the first thing people need to understand is it's inevitable. It's absolutely inevitable. It really started with COVID. That's when they queued it all up and got it ready. And at that time, the bad guys thought that COVID was going to be much worse than it was. They thought we were just going to fold, and they thought they'd go right into their reset and we'd have a global one world dictatorship. But if you've been paying attention, it looks like to me that the truth is coming out. When I had my near-death experience in 1968, God said, I'll hold you to the end and bring you out when people are ready to listen. They're just now ready to listen. And basically, we're going to have a deluge of truth, and we're going to get basically to the point that people are going to say, oh my God, I understand it. We have been in slavery, and we need to get out. And that's what this is going to do, is give you some background for what's coming. I think people need to understand how the financial system works. People talk about the central banking system all the time, but do you really understand it? It's complicated. And I've seen guys take 2 hours to describe it. Well, we're going to go through it relatively quick, and Rick and I are going to go bounce back and forth and answer questions and ask questions and make comments. So let's just get into the first slide. I'm going to go through the slides quickly so we have time to have the conversations in between. So if we go to that first slide, it's simply letting us know that we are in a situation where, whether we like it or not, the global financial elite want to basically create a catastrophic collapse. They absolutely want world government, no matter how it takes. And we need to understand something. Going forward, as we do this series, you need to understand what's in that bottom icon on the right. Basically, there are no sovereign nations. The United States is not sovereign, Russia, not India, not China, not any of them, because we're all controlled by the central banking system, which means we're controlled by the global financial elite. So they're puppeting things, but we're winning because the truth is going to set us free. Let's go to the next slide real quick, and then let me stop and see if you want to make any comments before we go on.
Okay, yeah. So, but that whole, we've been talking about this, the whole Rothschilds and the banking system, and how Trump now trying to fire somebody, and they're saying, no, you can't fire me. You don't have any authority. They're showing that they are actually a foreign entity, not that, right? They're showing themselves now, so it's kind of exciting. But that's something we can get to a little bit later. But
Are you talking about Powell, about trying to get rid of Powell? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking about that he just fired one of the persons of the board of directors today or yesterday, right? And she
And what
said,
he's
"You don't
also
have
trying to
power
do
over me," just
is,
like Powell said, "You don't have power over me." So they're saying, okay, the president of the United States doesn't have power over Powell, doesn't have power over the board of directors. So who does he have power over? They're trying to say nobody. So they're saying we are an independent agency, and that's going to look pretty bad on him, right, Larry?
well, that takes us way back to Alan Greenspan. He
Uh-huh.
was asked on his TV show, what's the proper relationship between the president of the United States and the director of the Federal Reserve? And the answer was, it doesn't make a bit of difference. We're an independent agency. As long as that exists, we don't report to the government. However, let me take you back even further, and let's go back to Kennedy. Kennedy didn't ask permission. What did Kennedy do? He issued silver certificates, and that effectively did away with the Fed. So what Trump is planning to do is to force interest rates to go down so that we can refinance the nearly $12 trillion that are coming up for refinancing. But clearly, if you listen to the Q drops, if you pay attention, his ultimate goal is to do what? To get rid of the Fed completely, to get rid of the IRS, and to go from an external system, from an internal system rather, to an external system based on what America was based on in the first place, based on tariffs and based on a single tax, a sales tax. So our entire banking system, our entire tax system is going to change. So we
Amen.
go to the next slide.
Amen.
Now here I've got a video that I'd like you to play, and we talked about that. If you pop that up.
Yeah, yeah. So this is basically this guy's video right here on YouTube. So let's listen to the first couple of minutes, right?
Two
Holy
minutes.
smokes. Do you understand what's about to happen? We are standing at the doorway of the single largest wealth transfer humanity has ever seen. Forget the internet boom, forget social media, forget even Bitcoin's first run-up. What Ripple and XRP are building is the very foundation of a new global financial system, a system where value moves as easily as information does today. Picture this. Trillions of dollars locked and parked in dusty corners of outdated financial rails, suddenly unlocked, moving seamlessly, instantly, 24/7. You're either positioned to benefit from this shift, or you're going to be left staring at the rearview mirror. This is not financial advice. Now, let's get into it. When people talk about XRP going to
Let me get that.
$100, $500, when people talk about XRP going to $100, $500, or even higher, the first thing that the skeptics scream is, but the market cap. The market cap would be bigger than Apple, bigger than Microsoft, bigger than Bitcoin. That line has been parroted for years by people who fundamentally do not understand how liquidity functions in a utility-driven ecosystem. Market cap in crypto isn't a ceiling. It's not a hard stop. It's a mirror, a reflection of how much money is flowing through the system at any given time. And XRP isn't like Bitcoin, sitting still, waiting for someone else to buy it higher. XRP is a bridge. It's the pipe that all the other pipes connect to. Dollars, euros, yen, tokenized treasuries, real estate, stablecoins, carbon credits, healthcare assets. Every single one of them will require liquidity. And that liquidity comes from XRP. And before we keep diving deeper, let me just say this. In the pin...
That's the first couple of minutes. You want to keep on rolling for a little bit?
No, 2 minutes is all we need.
Okay, all right, that's it. So that's a. My son's a huge investor, at least his small portfolio, right? A lot of it's in XRP. Yeah, he's a. There's a lot of people say, no, it's all going to be Bitcoin. It's all going to be Bitcoin, but no, XRP is going to be the utility, right, to be able to trade because Bitcoins are so huge. It's really hard to trade, and it's expensive to flip it back and forth between wallets, right? Is that part of it?
Well, are we recording now?
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let me make a comment then on your Bitcoin comment. And your son's not going to like what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Basically, Bitcoin is being used currently to bring some credibility to the US dollar. It's basically a store of value. But what this video just really was saying is, get ready, folks, because the current fiat system, the dollar, is going to collapse. And when we do, I'm going to take you back and tell you a little personal story. I had a near-death experience in '68, and I've been on this journey ever since. But 3 years ago, in my prayer time, God came to me and said, I'm going to give you an opportunity to invest in what's going to become the world's reserve currency. So that's what I've been doing for 3 years. So what now? I have to say, I guess I'm supposed to say this. I'm not a financial advisor, but I know what God tells me, and I go out and do my research. So what this man was telling you is, we're going to have a financial collapse. The dollar is going to basically hyperinflate, and we're going to move from it. And what is going to be the new world's reserve currency is going to be XRP. And we're going to have another Bretton Woods, which we'll talk about in a minute. But in terms of XRP versus Bitcoin, this is my opinion. I want to make that clear. I believe that in the long run, in the short run, XRP, Bitcoin is going to go up and up and up and up. But eventually, when XRP is fully implemented or pretty much implemented, we're going to find out that Bitcoin is really just a store of value. And if we have gold and we have silver back in our currencies, I believe Bitcoin is going to have a much, much diminished role. And I think the real role is going to be in gold and silver and in XRP. Now, if you disagree with that, please chime in, Rick, and tell your audience that I'm full of whatever.
Now, that's exactly what my son says, is that he doesn't like the Bitcoin. People say only Bitcoin, only Bitcoin. He has a little bit, but he's basically saying that XRP is so much more transactional, so more useful, that XRP is a great investment, right? So compared to Bitcoin and others, although Bitcoins can't be bad, but it's a store of value versus what could it really accelerate if it's being used as the world reserved, current Bitcoin. Yeah, exactly. Crypto. Yeah. All right, that's exciting.
So what they say about XRP is this: it's not the market cap, it's the utility. It's the fact that it can transfer money very inextensively around the world in a matter of seconds. That's what it's all about. And as we go forward, it's going to become the world's reserve currency. And that's going to make it unbelievably valuable. So it is the liquidity. Right now, we hold $27 trillion in abeyance every day so that we can pass money from nation to nation. That's not going to have to happen. That's what happens when we go to Bitcoin. So here's how XRP. Here's how it's going to work. At $1, there's only I think 100 billion XRP. At $1, it doesn't work at all. We're just basically in the discovery phase of XRP. We haven't gone into really where it's been loaded, but there's some 500 different institutions, including central banks and countries and corporations, that are gearing up to put it on. So here's what happens. Until it gets to about $100, it doesn't have enough equity in it in order to be used for transfers of large amounts of money. And so the more that comes on, or they're going to put real estate on it, they're going to put everything you can imagine, all the central banks, then it goes up and up and up, and the value has to go up because the number of coins is basically fixed and actually burns. So go out and do your own research, folks. But everything I've researched says it doesn't work at all in less than $100, and it's only around $3 now. And to get to full utilization, which might be 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now, there are those, including the CEO of XRP and Ripple, saying $10,000. So go do your own homework. Don't take my word for it. But you need to understand the dynamic as we get into the derivatives market and everything is on there. Then basically you're trading trillions of dollars per day. And that means that the value of the coin has to go up and up and up in order to make those transactions possible, because it is the liquidity for the transference, potentially in the long run, of trillions of dollars a day. So go do your homework. Don't depend on what I say. So Rick, back to you.
Yeah, and so to clarify that for people, if you're going to, and we talked a little bit about this on the live on the Blessed Teach show, we're going to go in more detail now. If you have $10,000 you're going to invest it, you're going to want probably some silver versus gold, because we talked about that last time, and you're probably going to want more XRP than you are Bitcoin in the short term and long term. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right, and you're also going to want some currency.
I don't know any Bitcoin. That's just me.
I'm sorry, what was about Bitcoin?
I said, I don't own any Bitcoin, but that's just me.
Right.
I believe that as a store of value, I'm not going to make much money off of it. That's my opinion.
Okay.
But gold, yes, silver, yes, even the currencies as they revalue. Because if you go to this next slide, there's just one word on there I want you to understand.
Right.
We are going to have a new Bretton Woods. In other words, the financial system is going to reset, and we're going to have a new Bretton Woods. For those who don't know what Bretton Woods was, it was basically convening of the nations of the world following World War II when there was economic instability. And they said, America, you're the only nation that has economic stability. You've got gold, you've got silver, you've got manufacturing. We need to be able to transfer money from nation to nation in order to conduct trade. We need the US dollar to be the world's reserve currency. Well, what's happening now is we've gone through this cycle where in the beginning, prior to World War II, silver Britain was the world's reserve currency. Then at Bretton Woods, we became the world's reserve currency. And now what China's doing is with BRICS, it's trying to put pressure on the dollar to bring the dollar down. It's going to create instability in the market, leading us to Bretton Woods, which is another reset. And this time, we're not going to come out of this as the sole reserve currency. We're going to come out with a basket of reserve currencies. And Donald Trump's goal is to make America the primary reserve currency. And he's going to do that by basically putting us backed by gold and backed by silver and other commodities. But he's also going to do something very astute. He's going to make the US the crypto capital of the world. And why is that important? Because we're a digital society. So if our money is trusted, then, and we are the crypto capital of the world, that means greater utilization for the US dollar, which gives us leverage, not the degree of leverage that we have now, but it gives us leverage. So this is what you're going to see in the near term, a reset of the financial system with America ceasing to be the sole reserve currency and hopefully becoming still the primary reserve currency with a basket of other currencies, probably China, probably Russia, probably Japan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So comments on this, Rick, before we go on?
Yeah, and again, there's two different paths here. One the globalists were trying to get us on, right? And one that Trump's taking us to, or the white hats. So can you talk to us a little bit about what those two differences are between the two plans?
Well, if the globalists win, basically, we go to a central bank digital currency, just like they have already in China. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean? You don't need any legislation to control the people. We're slaves. So they can tell us, hey, Larry, you're fat. You can't buy a diet. You have to buy Diet Coke. You can't buy a soda with sugar in it. Oh, and you look like you're a terrorist. You can't buy bullets. No, you got a gun? Okay, but you're not going to sell your bullets. So basically, that's what they want to do. They want to have a system that is programmable. So right in the currency, without any legislation, they can just say what we can buy and what we can sell. And what is that? That's the B system. And what does the UN tell us? If you go to the documents, which I've done, and go to the UN, you'll find out that their goal, which would go along with their version of the reset, is to have a 10-nation trading bloc, a coalition of nations that determine if you can buy and sell. And that's the B system. And that's what they want to bring in with central bank digital currencies that are programmable. So what we are trying to do, the good guys, is to go to decentralized digital currency that can't be controlled, that's on the blockchain, that gives us privacy, and that allows us to not be controlled by a programmable currency. We have to do what we've done all along, is go back to legislators and have laws passed. And that's keeping our sovereignty, or I should say reinstating our sovereignty, because we really lost our sovereignty, as you know, in 1871. So, Rick, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, and so my story is another story. I had a bank take out 9 of my bank accounts, right? My businesses, my wife's businesses, our personal, our ministry accounts, all taken out by Washington Federal. And then also PayPal completely canceled us. A bunch of other people canceled us. But PayPal took my business account, my ministry, and my personal account out. It just shows you that if that was my only place to go, they could literally just control me completely, right? They could destroy my life completely. And so that's an indicator. Sometimes you have to show the people. So I think they allowed this to happen, all the censorship to happen, to show us what's going to happen if we have the B system. That's kind of what my theory is, and that now you've shown the people what will happen. So now hopefully we can move to this other one. And so on this slide, Larry, when we look at this, the very last thing says collapse USA, China, and global monetary system in order to create order out of chaos. That's the order out of chaos is the elite plan, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
So
what they want.
yeah,
That's what they want. But they're not going to get it because basically people think about BRICS. That's the coalition. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China. Did I miss anybody? Brazil, Russia, India, China. I missed one. I can't think. But anyway, bottom line is it's not a coalition in the way that people think.
South Korea,
Basically, not South Korea, South Africa.
South Africa.
All
Yeah.
right, it's not. It's basically convenience. What the nations of the world want is two things. They don't want to be controlled. They want sovereignty. To get that, we have to have deglobalization, which means that basically we're heading down a path where not any nation can control us. And in particular, with deglobalization, we want to get off under control of China through trade. But then we also have to have de-dollarization, where the U.S. ceases to become the sole reserve currency and is only one of many currencies that is considered to be a world's reserve currency. So basically, that's what's coming down. It has to happen. Those two things are essential to the transfer of wealth that's coming and to the new economic system that we're going to be coming on to. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I just just a quick question. So is BRICS white hat, black hat? I know India. It looks like Trump's trying to get India out. He said that anybody's BRICS is going to get higher tariffs. So it's not. It's against the U.S. dollar. But is it black hat operation or a white hat operation or something in between?
I'm glad you asked that because I had lost my train of thought. So you've got to understand when nations come together, they come together for vested interest, I mean the interest of themselves. So China, no question. China wants to be the leaders of the world, and they have the goal to collapse the U.S. dollar. And that's why Trump is basically countering by making the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. But you look at India, and in order to get the trade deal with India, what is Trump demanding? He's demanding that you get out of BRICS. And if you don't, there are going to be tariff requirements. And if you look at Brazil, all right, what's Brazil say? Are they in love with China? No. You know what they say about China? They say China has deindustrialized us. So they're coming against both the United States and the dollar because they want to have sovereignty. And then the same thing is true of South Africa. Mm-hmm. So the other nations, other than Russia, are there because they want to have a sovereign currency, a currency based on commodities not controlled by a central banking system, so that they can transact business in a gold-backed, commodity-backed system in their own currencies. That's what the world wants. That's the coalition. So one country wants to bring us down. The others just want to have sovereignty.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's beautiful. So this next slide gets into the rate.
All right. This is something I think people need to understand. This is how we're controlled now and how we're not going to be controlled in the future. So with a system that basically creates a debt with every dollar that is created, they can at their will cause inflation and deflation, boom bust cycles, wage suppression, illegal taxes, which is basically your federal income tax, and property confiscation, where they can take your property. We came here so that we wouldn't be under a central bank. We came here so we could own property. So two of the principal reasons why the United States was founded have been usurped by the central banking system and the global financial elite. So what's the solution? We go to a commodity-backed system, God's system, and then none of those things can be done because the commodities each have inherent value. And so all of those things that enslave us, that debt trap we're in, is taken away when we go to a commodity-backed system. Then we have to deal with the stock market separately, because what happens in the stock market is there's manipulation. Companies, for example, when COVID hit, the interest rates went way, way down, right? And money was printed. Well, did the corporations, those Fortune 100 corporations, invest in additional infrastructure? No. You know what they did? They went out and bought back their own stocks. You know what that did? That drove the price of their stocks up so that they're way higher than they should be, which is leading us to the understanding that there's going to be a financial reset in the stock market. Probably, in my opinion, the worst place you can have your money right now is in the stock market. But the new system that's going to come out, it's not going to allow you to do puts and calls. It's going to be based on projections, not based on projections, rather. It's going to be based on performance. So if you're a blue chip stock, if you have lots of reserves, if you're making money every quarter, if you're paying dividends, then your stock is going to be considered to be valuable. And then we get down, basically that creates a solution that gets us out of the debt trap system that we're in. So comments on that, Rick, before we go further?
Yeah, and this comes back to why I push getting financial advice from an honest gold dealer. There's a lot of gold and silver people that will try to sell you huge this rare coins, and they're making 50-60%. Versus buying bullion, where Kirk Elliott, and the reason I push him so much is he only takes 8% up front and 0% on the back. Some of them have, you can't get it out unless you pay them a percentage on the end. So if gold or silver goes up 100-fold, you're paying 100x the commission, right? So you don't want to do that, and that's why I just advocate, guys, that when you look at doing these investments in XRP, silver. Currency, make sure the one that you can get ripped off the most easily is gold and silver. So move stuff out of the stock market is one part of advice, at least of diversifying. I like having, most financial planners will say diversify, but get your free consultation. I just want to say real quickly from Kirk Elliott. You can see that right here. You can contact him at 720-605-3900 and just say Rick B2T sent you, and you can actually get your 401, your IRAs moved over. You can get your stocks moved over and other things but again, we're not financial planners. Kirk Elliott is, right? He actually can look at all that type of stuff. So that's one thing to really, really think about. But the solution here is system based on earnings growth and dividends versus manipulation. That's going to be beautiful, right, for people. So in the future, stock, as we make money on the gold and silver and the currency exchange, and we actually protect our assets as we do it on crypto, then we can move into stock markets once it's a fair stock market. Would that be fair, Larry?
Absolutely, and there's going to be some amazing opportunities. Why? Because we're going to have two things happen. So get your money out of the stock market right now is my personal recommendation. But here's what's going to happen. Basically, we're going to go with the Chevron deal that Trump orchestrated. We're going to get back access to some 6,000 patents, and then we're going to go a commodity-backed system, and we're going to innovate a new industrial revolution, and America is going to lead. And what are you going to have? You're going to have technology stocks, and you're going to have commodities. And so as this unfolds post-collapse and reset, then we're going to have unbelievable opportunities to invest in emerging technologies and to invest in what are going to be the most crucial commodities. So that's a second wave after everything stabilizes. But going into it, you want to be in XRP and gold and in silver and possibly in some of the currencies. Yeah. So I want to ask you a question. Do you have an opinion on silver as to whether you prefer bars or whether you prefer coins?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I always recommend you have some what they call junk silver on hand, because if everything goes to heck, right, the globalists win this battle or whatever, you're going to need to have bartering capability with smaller increments, right? Those are dimes before 1965, right? And then but as far as you don't want to store these big huge bars, but they're the best value and the lowest storage cost is to get bars. Right, so I have all three, junk silver, coins, as well as bullion. But the cheapest way and the most secure way to assure that you're not getting ripped off, if you will, is to not pay premiums, and you don't pay hardly any premium on bullion. It's big, huge bars that I have in the Texas vault. That's what Kirk Elliott has done for me. Done many transactions with him. It's liquid, so when I need cash, I can just sell it within 3 or 4 days and get it. Unlike real estate, that's not liquid. Right, so that's kind of my thoughts on that. Obviously, some of these premiums are really high, like the American Eagle as an example, but it's probably the most recognizable. That's why it's a higher premium. So those are kind of my general thoughts on that. Any thoughts that you have on that, Larry?
Well, I don't have as much money probably as you do, but but I invested in junk silver. It's anything from a quarter to a quarter and a dime, and it's 90% silver. So I bought some bags of junk silver. I did not buy bars, however, my son did. I just wanted you to bring out the fact that you are paying a premium if you get the coins versus getting the bars. But you just beautifully explained why you would want to have some coins on hand.
Yeah.
And maybe we should talk about what's going to happen.
It's not like I'm wealthy. It's just I moved a lot of my RA into the bars, right? So
okay.
So that's how I was able to be preserve my wealth, if you will, because that was at 22 or whatever, and it's at 38, I think, today. So that's good stuff, guys. And so this is great information. Thank you for sharing this with all Larry as we continue here.
Maybe we should, we don't need a slide right now. Maybe we should continue the conversation on silver a little bit. Historically, silver is 16 to 1. And why is that? And where is it now? It's between 80 and 90 to 1. So, I mean, it's all totally flipped upside down. Silver is so undervalued, it isn't funny. But why it was originally 16 to 1, because we've primarily took all the easy access, really rich silver veins, and most of the silver we get is a byproduct from mining copper and gold and other assets. And so it's basically a fixed ratio that we get about 16 to 1. But as we go through this reset, and basically we understand something, the gold market is much bigger than the silver market, so it's harder to manipulate the gold than it is to manipulate silver. And is there a motive that would make the global financial elite want to significantly devalue the value of silver, hold it down and compress it compared to gold? And here's my opinion, and I'd like to have you make a counter comment if you could. I believe that gold, as they say, is a store of value, but silver is utilitarian value. And so as we go into this new industrial revolution, and they say that the energy requirements are going to double to triple, and the amount of electronics that are going to be manufactured is going to go through the roof, what happens is silver becomes highly in demand. And that's going to drive this price up, and it's going to change that 16 to 1 ratio it's going to take us back in that direction. And I think the analysis that I've done says silver has to go to at least $200. It can go much higher, but I'm trying to be making this statement based on the most conservative comments that I've seen. So what's your comments based on that, Rick?
Yeah, and if you look at just the USDebtClock.org, they think in the 5 years it's going to be at 1,533, right? Silver, and so if you just think about that potential, the whole 30, 60, 100 from the Bible kind of potentially comes into play. And I tell them but that's not going to happen until after we get rid of the Babylonian system, right? And we don't have the Fed anymore. We don't have the IRS anymore. We've moved to the new system. But yeah, there's no question that if you look at the simply look at the all-time highs of silver, we're not even there yet. There's at 49, almost 50, right? And it's at 38.54. And so silver and gold's been at the all-time high 7 or 8 times here just lately, right? So that's where, and the biggest thing that I always try to point out, guys, is that, remember, the globalists loved wars and they like to build bombs, and there's a lot of silver in bombs, right? And electronic equipment. So they manipulate silver down significantly, and how they've done that, they have almost the record amount of derivatives. The derivatives is like shorting it to try to pull it down. But now they've had a hard time doing that, Larry. So it's kind of interesting that silver has gone from this 25 or 26 and then all the way up to 38 to 40. And that's with their massive derivatives. But I think you're exactly right. They want to actually suppress it for a lot of reasons. One of them is building all the bombs and building all their equipment, building all the things with that silver. But it's utility, like you said, pretty soon, as you start expanding even more and you need more silver, there's going to be a shortage. And then that like you said, that 16 to 1 ratio could be even significantly tightened. And that's why those people are saying that. Go ahead.
Here's another comment I have on silver, and you feel free to disagree with me. But basically what I see is that silver plays a relatively unique role because of its utility. And what I think is going to happen with silver is when there's a flight from currency, where is it going to go? It's going to go to Bitcoin. It's going to go to gold. It's going to go to silver. And now you talked about how you hold your silver. You have it stored in a warehouse, in a secure vault. Well, there's a lot of people that buy gold and silver on contract. And when we get to the point that there's a flight to silver, what's going to happen is the COMEX is going to one day say, we can't fill those orders because those contracts, I don't know if you really believe this, but there's people out there that aren't honest. Do you believe that?
Can you believe that?
And they sell those contracts 2 or 3 or 4 times. And so if you think you're holding silver and you're holding it in a paper, you may not be. So here's my prediction. When that happens, this probably will happen with gold to maybe, I don't know, there's more gold in reserve than there is silver, but certainly it's going to happen with silver, in my opinion. When they say we can't fill these contracts, all of a sudden the price of silver is going to go through the roof. And guess what? You're not going to be able to buy it anywhere. So if you're looking to buy silver, what I guess I'm saying is, I believe there's some urgency. Once it gets to 50, it's going to run away. And once they get to where they can't fill those first contracts, it's going to be, you're not going to be able to buy it at all. So comments, Rick.
Yeah, that's why I'd be very careful of what he's calling EFTs. It's paper saying that you can have silver, but it's not real silver. That's why you got to go get the real stuff, right? Get yourself some coins and some junk silver, and then in a vault do the bars, the bullion bars. I really suggest being careful of any paper contracts right now, especially with the Babylonian system about ready to crash, we believe, right? So if you believe what we believe, it's very dangerous to have EFTs. And so if I had a 401k and was a great job and I couldn't quit, right? So I can't move a 401k into a physical silver. Now that's going to change in January, by the way, based on what Trump's doing. That he talked about you can have commodities in your 401k. So that could be interesting. You're definitely going to have crypto in your 401ks, and that's going to really hurt the stock market too. That's trillions of dollars coming out that can in January, February, when you can actually start. But right now you can't, right? So if you're wanting to get into silver and gold from a perspective of your 401k, hopefully they have silver and gold stocks. Still not as good as having silver. And I'm talking about the miners. I'm talking about the silver miners. So I'm not a big fan. Mm-hmm. But it's better than EFTs, right? So don't do EFTs, but I think we're both agree on. Is that right, Larry?
Yeah, we're in sync. All right, shall we go on? Are you got any other comments on silver that you want to make?
No, I think that's great. Again, lastly, guys, I would just say make sure you can just see here with silver. If I look at a 20-year map here, let me go to this thing so you can see me as well. But you'll see here that this was back in 2000 and what was that you can see several times it went above 40, almost to 50, right? This is silver, so it hasn't even reached its all-time high. It's 38. But if you look at gold, I've just flipped this at the same time frame, 20 years. I'm looking at 20 years, and I flipped to gold. You can see it's way higher than this time period here. So that's just one other data point of why Kurt, when you talk to Kurt, he's probably going to talk about silver versus gold, because stored value, like Larry said, versus the utility of it, just like XRP kind of, the utility, as well as the derivatives, massive suppression that's happening once those derivatives go away. When JT Morgan and Bank of America can't do that anymore, you're going to have upward pressure on silver. So that's kind of my last part. Anything else there before we move on?
Yeah, you said something a minute ago that I want to comment. But first, I got a question. I can't believe I can't remember this name. What's the name of the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad? Kawasaki. That's it. Mm-hmm. All right. When we had the 08 collapse, you know what he did? Now, remember, he's a billionaire now, from what I understand. He took a great big, huge truck and drove up to the place where he had his gold stored and left with an entire truckload of gold. And what did he do with it?
Wow. According
to him, he bought land. So I've got a real estate background. So maybe we should talk about real estate for a second. I didn't have a plan to talk about it. I have no slides on it, but maybe we should talk about it just for a minute, because it's another asset class. And basically real estate right now has gone through the roof since COVID. So a house that cost you $200,000 in 2019 might cost you $400,000 now. But it's not the windfall that people think, because you've got to pay property tax on that. So the property tax goes up. And also what's going to happen when we go to a new economic system, basically Trump is looking at something that they did in 33. In 33, they revalued gold. He is looking to revalue gold, which would give them the opportunity to take, who knows, it's at $42 an ounce on our treasury books. It's certainly, if they're going to revalue it, it's going to be above what it currently is selling for. So it's going to be above $3,000 in my opinion. And that's found money in a sense. That's money that he can use to pay the national debt off. And you combine that with the forcing of the lowering of the interest rates so that we can finance. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically, I believe, avoid a default on the part of the U.S. government when that happens. But back to land. So what's going to happen is when the dollar's worth a dollar, here's why that house that was $200,000 in 19 is now $400,000, because the dollar has been going down, 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 down. The house didn't go up in value. The dollar went down in value. So when we go back onto a gold and silver based system that where we have commodities that have value, basically the house is going to go back down, not to $200,000 where it was in 2019, but back to where it was before 1971 when we were on a gold standard, back to where when I was a kid in the 50s and the dollar was worth a dollar. And I bought my first house when I was 19, a 10-room all brick duplex. Are you ready for this? It was $19,500. I sold it over 20 years ago for $120,000.
Right.
So what's going to happen when this change occurs and the dollar becomes worth a dollar is that your real estate values are going to drop dramatically, but you're not going to lose money because the dollar is worth a dollar, so you have more purchasing power. So what's going to happen is there's going to be lots of opportunity in land. As we go through this, I think there's going to be opportunities to pick up real estate, both commercial and residential. And so let's look at actually, I think I've got a slide in here. We'll just talk about it now. So here's what they did in 08, and here's what's coming. In 08, they orchestrated a financial collapse on the real estate market. And what they did is they said, for the first time in the history of the world, you can buy real estate with no money down and no income verification. And basically what they did is they didn't give you a conventional 30-year, 20% down mortgage. They give you an ARM that expired in 3 years. And then the rates went up dramatically. So that was their trigger to make a great big huge real estate bubble where real estate went up and up and up and up and up. And then at the 3-year mark, basically it popped because those people couldn't pay the higher cost of the mortgage. And so the market collapsed. That was what gave us the 08 collapse. But you know what? They're sneaky. They're doing something similar to it again. Here's what's happening in the commercial market. What happened with COVID?
Yeah.
People could work from home. And now there's unbelievable amounts of commercial real estate that are sitting vacant.
Right.
And that's going to cause a real crisis in the commercial market. But are they doing anything in the residential market? Yes, they are. Have you ever heard of Fannie and Freddie? All right, here's what's going on. They're allowing you can't buy a house with no money down like before, but you can buy one with 3% down. And for a conventional loan, which I'm sure you and I have, and we've bought houses in the past, you have to put 20% down. But basically, they changed the rules, and here's what they've done. They've said you can buy a house with 3% down, and you can buy it with, usually it's a 700 or plus credit score to give you the ability to buy a home unless you want to pay a huge interest rate. But you can buy it at a credit score that's in the 500s. And so what's happened, they don't want you to know this, but there have been massive numbers of defaults as those ARMs expire. And guess what the government's been doing? Fannie and Freddie have been not foreclosing on those loans, on those defaulted loans. They've been paying the mortgages for these people because they don't want to collapse the market prematurely. They want to do this all at one time. And so basically both the commercial and residential markets are set to collapse. And then on the other side, once this is all said and done and and values readjust, there's going to be unbelievable opportunities in real estate. But real estate, I believe, the greatest opportunity is now, not as we come into this collapse, but as we come out, where you can take the profits that you made from gold and silver and XRP and go into real estate. So that's my comment on real estate. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. The only other major thing there is that it's not very liquid. And if you have a hard time selling it, it could take months and months and months sometimes, or sometimes years.
That's one of the reasons you don't want to go into it now. You want to go into it later, when you're flush with cash, when you're solvent, when you can pick up some real deals, and not now. So that's on the backside, but so are the stocks. So I think we have an obligation to tell people how to prepare and think short term and think long term.
Right.
So shall we go on to the next slide?
Yeah, that'd be great. So
that takes us to credit card debt. And guess what? Just like the federal income tax is illegal, so is the credit card, because basically we had all but 6 states that had usury laws that said you can't charge these outlandish rates, but they incorporated in those 6 states and inflicted usury laws on us. And here's what they do in this system of what I call credit card slavery. They basically have an interest rate, just like on your mortgage, right? That you pay, what's the word I'm looking for? I just lost the term. Every month you pay on the existing balance. And so if you get deep into credit card debt, it could take you 10, 15 years to pay it off.
Amen.
It's not just simple interest rates. It's basically compounded. I can't think of the word. I can't remember the term that I'm looking for, but in revolving credit. So at any rate, it takes you into a debt slavery system that's just horrible. So I believe that's going to change too, coming on down the road. But right now, get out of debt as much as you can. You don't want to go into a depression, into a recession, into an economic hardship of any kind if you're in debt. So if you have the ability, maybe you can't pay your house off, but maybe you can get out from under your credit card debt. So let's go on and dig a little deeper into something else. I want people to understand this is the system we're in. The key word on that chart is progressive tax. Here's how it works. And this is one of the tenets of communism. This is the basis of your central banking system. So basically, they give us the Fed and they say, well, we're going to use your federal income tax to pay the national debt. But remember, every dollar that's printed creates more and more and more debt, to where we get to the point that we can't pay that debt obligation off of the proceeds from federal income tax. So what do? That's where progressive tax comes in. They create some new taxes. And then they get to the point that those taxes can't pay the national debt. We're now paying $1 trillion per year service on a $37 trillion debt. So now they have to raise the rates on those new taxes. And so the taxes keep going up. And that's why people say, well, am I going to pay my mortgage this month, or buy my medicine, or buy food, or whatever? But when you go to a commodity-backed system, everything changes. And basically the debt starts to go away. Debt forgiveness happens. We pay down the debt, and basically we get out from under the debt trap that we're in under the central banking system. So I just wanted people to understand how this works. The next couple of slides will bring us into some stuff that I think most people don't know. But before we get into these, do you have any comments on what I just said?
Yeah, I totally understand that. And boy, that debt forgiveness is something that I think a whole bunch of people are hoping happens. So,
well, basically, here's what happens. People don't understand that every dollar, because of the fractional reserve system, every dollar that's created creates a treasury bond, which is a debt obligation, which means every dollar ever printed made our national debt go up and 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 up. And then if that isn't bad enough, look at the next bullet point down. Debt is created by deficit spending. And wait a minute, is there anything we spend that's a deficit? In other words, spending money that we don't have? How about all those wars? They're all based on debt. How about the unfunded entitlements? They're based on debt. How about the social services and infrastructure? When you're in debt, like this country is, a lot of the things that we build are basically in debt. So every bit of that creates more and more and more debt until finally the debt can't be tolerated and it collapses. That's where we're at now. We're in that situation where the financial system is going to collapse, and it's just a matter of the bad guys going to win or the good guys. And as Rick and I discussed, we are winning. It's very clear that we are winning. Donald Trump has got the winning plan, and he's executing it with precision. So we can go to the next slide, but do you have comments on this one? This is an important slide for people to understand.
Yeah, I think the major thing there is that this is their system. This is the Babylonian system I was talking about, right? And France in debt. You have all these countries in debt and hyperinflation, usually, and the miserable existence at that time if they get to their reset. And that's why we have to fight and pray and use our authority in Christ to make sure that we do not go the elite's way of reset. Correct?
Another comment. So America has got more debt right now than it had since World War II. But it's not just America. Because of COVID, almost every major nation in the world printed more money than it printed in 50 to 100 years. So we're all up to our eyeballs in debt. And the nation that you should keep your eye on is Japan. It might be the canary in the coal mine because their debt to GDP ratio is something like it's over 200%. And so what I'm getting at is America's in trouble, China's in trouble, Japan's in trouble, Europe's in trouble, Russia's in trouble. The global financial system has to collapse because none of these nations are in a position to keep carrying the level of debt that they're carrying. It's time for the Ponzi system to collapse. And so you have to get prepared to go into the new system. And if you sleep, you're going to wake up one morning and you're going to wish you had taken action. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So shall we go to the next slide?
Yeah, definitely take action now on this.
All right, so this I just want to make sure people understand what we're facing with. Here's the boom cycle versus the bust cycle. So basically, it's a formula that they use, and God told me I'll allow you to make the things that are complicated simple. So if they want to create a boom like they did in 08 or like they did in 29, they increase the money supply, lots of money out there. Then they lower the interest rate, so it's cheap, so you borrow it. Then they create something that's you got to buy a house, you got to buy stocks, you got to buy whatever. So now you got a target. You're going to go out and borrow money and leverage yourself. And then what do they do? Bam. The prices go up and up and up until it pops. And here's how they pop it. They trigger the collapse by drying up the credit. And anybody who bought on leverage is done. And basically the market collapses because people don't understand the entire economic system of the world runs on credit. So let's say you're gonna order some stuff from a factory. You're a manufacturer here in the United States, and you're ordering something in China. Well, basically that's on credit. Basically, you get paid when the delivery is made. Everything is on credit. So if they dry the credit up, just like that, the entire economic system collapses. So they drive it up and up and up and up, and then here's what they do. They get out. They know when they're going to trigger that collapse. They get out and take all your hard-earned money, and they're richer than rich, and they leave us poor suckers to suffer because we're the ones that loses our homes. We're the ones that loses our stock market investment. We're the ones that take a bath. So that's what you need to know. You need to understand that this is not by accident, that it's planned. And with all the things we've been talking about, hopefully you can see that the plan is pretty sinister. Let's go on to the next slide unless you've got comments.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing. This is called quantitative tightening, right? Where they bring money supply down. And this is what they did to me in 2008. I had to close down a business. And many people have committed suicide after they lose their businesses. So this is a purposeful cycle. It's not a natural. It's the cabal system. So they pick up all those assets for cheap, right, Larry?
Absolutely. What they do is the central banks, buy out smaller banks so that they have more leverage and more control. And then what do the global financial elite do? You know, these things affect corporations as well, right? So basically what happens is corporations go under, just like individuals go under, and then they buy them for pennies on the dollar. So basically they get out, the global financial elite are controlling it all, and they get out and they take their profits and they wait for everything to collapse, and they come in the real estate market, they come back in the stock market, and they buy things for pennies on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if we need to go into this in any detail. How the '08 financial collapse happened. They increased the money supply, lowered interest rates, no money down loans. I kind of talked about this before when the slide was up here. So I think we can basically just skip this one and go on, unless you've got some comments having seen this slide.
That's what they did, and then they
This,
tightened the money supply, and they bought up all the businesses that crashed. They bought up all the low stuff, right?
yep. Yep, because they know what's coming. They're orchestrating it. And this is what set this whole thing in motion that makes it unstoppable, folks. COVID was what created the impetus for the financial collapse, for the reset. It can't be stopped. The debt is now unmanageable and it has to happen, but it's going to come down on our side because Donald Trump is orchestrating an ingenious plan, and because America really, here's what people need to understand. When Trump started talking about the tariffs, Xi Jinping smirked, and just like Obama said, Trump, what are you going to do? Wave a magic wand and fix the economy? And he said, yep, and he did. And basically what's happened, Xi Jinping, what did he say? He said, Trump, you just screwed up big time. He says, all the nations of the world are gonna leave you because of your ridiculous tariff policies. No, they didn't. They negotiated with us. And what did they do? They left China. China is the one that's basically just about to go under because they're losing control of the global financial system. So what does it tell us? The world doesn't want to be controlled by a communist government. America has done some horrible things, but it's not the American people. It's the shadow government that controls us. The people of the world are rooting for America. They're rooting for Donald Trump. They're rooting for U.S. nationalism because they know that the only major concern out there that they can trust is the United States. The only government in the world that has the ability to bring the world back from a financial collapse is the United States. So make no mistake, the people of the world are not levitating to China or to communism or to Russia or to India. They're levitating to the United States of America. And the United States of America is going to do just what Trump said. It's going to be great again. And what's it going to be based on? Just what it was based on in the 1950s. Built in America, by America. And what did Trump do? He gave an invitation to all those other countries. He said, look, if you don't like my tariffs, you don't have to pay them. No big deal. Just come to America, build your factories here. You won't have any tariffs. And I'm changing the tax laws. You'll have some of the cheapest tax laws in the world. You'll be happy. We'll be happy. America will be great again. And we'll share the proceeds of our prosperity and help the rest of the world. And so what happened with that plea on the table? We got what? In a matter of weeks, commitments for $10 trillion to build factories in the United States. So America is going to build factories. That's the basis of wealth. So what do they say? They say money is he who controls money controls the world. Well, let me ask you a question. Where's the money come from? It comes from getting natural resources, converting them into finished goods, selling them, which converts into money, which converts into the control. And so America is going to get back in the catbird seat, and China is going to get to go in the timeout box.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen. Hey, and just recently, Trump said Intel gave him 10% of the company. They may be making investments in in some of our big contractors, military contractors. So that's new too, right? It's actually the U.S. owning U.S. companies is part of the strategy. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Larry.
Yes. And then just look what happened with the negotiations, or potentially is going to happen with the negotiations on Russia and Ukraine. The United States is no longer going to be the patsy for the rest of the nations of the world. He said to NATO, you're going to pay 5% of your GDP. And so what we were doing, we were spending, I think it was 700 billion we sent to Ukraine. But what did he just announce? I got a rare earth deal in Ukraine that's worth more than the 700 billion that we gave, and we're not going to buy their military supplies anymore. We now are looking at getting a $1 trillion military contract, and we're going to sell those to the UN and to the EU. And if they want to give it to Ukraine, they can give it to Ukraine. But we're going to be the world's police force, but we're not going to bleed to death because of it. Everybody's going to pay their own way. Amen. So I'm sorry, I think I cut you off.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's just, but I know we've been recording for a full hour now, so we probably need to wrap this up with the slides. But you have a great ending point, so let's flip back.
I think we're pretty much done anyway. Mm-hmm. So let's just go back to the very last slide. If you scroll down to the very, very last slide, they don't need to understand all the rest of this. Okay. I just go back and say, go watch, not that one, I'm sorry, the one before that. That's just me trying to sell my book. Basically, go back to that slide that was number 3, where we had that link. Click on that link. It's not on this particular slide. Go watch that guy's entire video, because you're going to get some unbelievable understanding of everything that we've talked about on top of what Rick and I have brought out here. So it's a wonderful, wonderful, about a 30-minute long video, and I think you get some great knowledge out of it. So that last slide is just simply saying, folks, God, yep, that's it. That's the one. That's where the link is at. So basically, what that last slide is just saying, God told me that I come out at the last minute in time, and that what he was giving me was the knowledge to pass on to the people so that they could stand up and be part of this. Because if we don't have most of the people on our side, we could go into a civil war situation. So that book tells you what made America great, how we've systematically had it stolen from us, how we're going to get it back, a lot of what Trump is doing, and how we're going to keep it. So join the army. Basically, Rick is a part of that army, and so am I. And we need lots and lots of patriots that are going to stand up and see to it that when the going gets tough, that we speak up and we basically stand for America. And when we do that, we'll come out of this just perfectly. So I got nothing else to say. I'm going to turn it back over to you to close.
Right. So, hey, I'll just end with making sure you understand. If you want to get more from Larry, he's got a book 1 available right now. Book 2's coming later, but this is a great one. So go use that QR code right there. And the true history of America, who the enemy is, what the end game agenda is, how they divided and enslaved us, taking back our freedom and keeping it, how we make America great again, why there is no need to fear. So it's been a pleasure, Larry. I want to end with a quick prayer, if you don't mind, and just praying for you and
Sure.
and the audience. Lord, just thank you so much for Larry and coming out at this point in time. You've saved him up for such a time as this and built him up so he has the knowledge to give us wisdom, Lord. And so thank you for that. You say you're going to reveal things before they happen to your servants. And thank you for revealing stuff to Larry. We just pray you amplify his voice and you use him in a mighty way for your kingdom, more than he can even ask or imagine. Allow him to enjoy this process and journey, and allow other people to understand exactly what they need to do. And I pray for a blessing on everyone listening to my voice, that they'll get wisdom from you directly on exactly what steps they should take for their personal circumstance, whether it's crypto or currency or silver or other things. Lord, just give them the wisdom they need to embark on this, to where there's no longer the evil one taking dominion over us, but we take dominion over the earth, Lord. We love you, and we say these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. But thank you, Larry.
Well, I said I didn't have another comment, but I do.
Okay, good.
Basically, I want to add one thing. It's in relationship to your new platform. Basically, what's coming out as the whistleblowers come out, I can already see that the censorship is beginning to be less and less and less and less. But what Rick is specifically doing to all of you out there, here's what I want you to know. He's basically taking voices like mine, for example, and that he believes have value, and he's amplifying them. And it's now giving this community, the conservative community, a whole new opportunity to go on all those different platforms that he showed you, to go internationally, so that we can basically take God's message, because this is a faith-based organization. Take the knowledge that we need to control our lives, but also take God's message to the entire world. So please support him, because he is about to basically open doors that haven't been opened before.
Yeah, thank you so much, Larry. That's Media Freedom Deception. This is exclusive here. There'll be a bunch of other exclusive on Faith and Freedom TV. It's going to be a great ride, guys. And with that, God bless you, and we'll see you next week, exact same time, same place. We're going to play this every week at the same time. You'll be able to know exactly when this goes up on the Faith and Freedom platform. God bless you, Larry, and just to hold on for a second, and we'll see you at the end.
Thank you, Rick.